Greetings everyone, I am the Beard and welcome to my Next Fest June 2024 edition Retrospective. I haven't done this before, but I thought it would be a good idea to wrap up the latest edition of the Steam Next Fest, now that it's ended, with some thoughts and insights into some of the games that we took for a spin on the channel. There were 7 demos we ultimately took a first look at, and some of them will be making a return to the channel for more in-depth playthroughs as they're fully released, but more on that as we go through the list. But before we get stuck in, I do want to reiterate how absolutely stoked I am with this continuing trend of demos being released for games. I grew up without Steam or YouTube. All I had was monthly magazines with the CD attached to the front, and that is how I got my taste of games and learned what I liked. So I'm really excited to see this trend continue. So thank you to Steam for putting together the whole thing, and also to all the studios and devs who embrace this opportunity. We, the gamers, really appreciate it. Right, let's get stuck in, starting with the more historically focused games. Number 1. Republic of Pirates. Establish and grow a pirate utopia during the golden age of piracy, create a resource-based economy, engage in real-time naval combat, and navigate diplomatic relationships with rival powers. Explore the far reaches of the Caribbean in search of the ultimate fortune and glory. So I really enjoyed this one. The demo covers roughly the first 3 hours of the campaign, so we got a really good taste of what this one has in store for us, and I'm really surprised that there are not more pirate-themed city builders out there. I played a heck of a lot of Sid Meier's Pirates as a teenager, probably sunk way too much time into it. Although not a strict city builder, it kind of lent into that sort of genre. And then the only other city builder, true city builder, I could really think of that was pirate themed was Tropico Pirate Cove. So I was really keen to see what this one had. Basically, this is Anno Light with perhaps a slightly bigger focus on the naval combat, which is to be expected when we have pirates in the mix. There are some nice touches like ship customization, unique abilities for the class of ship you end up building, and each one of the ships actually needs a pirate captain, which then provides the ships themselves with even more abilities, buffs, and skills. So there seems to be real potential for this one to get quite strategically deep on the combat side of things. Apart from that, the formula is very tried and tested. Explore, conquer, expand, that's the name of the game, and just like Anno, we're tempted or at least encouraged to do said exploring, conquering, expanding, so that we can gain access to specific resources located on the islands scattered throughout the archipelago. Although, unlike Anno, we're not restricted by fertility alone, but also production bonuses and nerfs to certain resources, which I thought was a really nice little twist. So I call this Anno Light, mainly in part because the management side of the gameplay loop feels significantly easier. For example, your resource storage is universal, yes, even across islands, so you don't need to get stuck into detailed sort of shipping, trade, and supply routes. But despite that, there's more than enough here to hold the attention, and the theme and setting I think works very well. We'll definitely be taking a much deeper look at Republic of Pirates here on the channel, so expect some quest notes on this one soon, and if anything, it'll help us plug the need for our Anno fix while we wait for Anno 117, which was just announced, to arrive. Number 2. CITADELUM. CITADELUM is a city builder set in legendary ancient Rome. Build your own settlement, gather resources, and evolve it into a magnificent city. Explore the world, trade, and lead your mighty legions in epic tactical battles. Earn the favor of the gods, or challenge them if you dare. This is the first of what is going to be many upcoming Roman-themed city builders, and this is another game that makes absolutely no bones about the inspiration from which it draws. Heavily inspired by the old Impression-style city builders like Caesar and Pharaoh, this game, on initially experiencing it, can almost feel like an absolute carbon copy of those titles, perhaps with some modern quality of life improvements. There are some things that it does try to do differently, for example the addition of the world map, which allows for the establishment of commerce routes, while although not a new idea, is nicely implemented, and I can see how the game is going to tie the establishment of these commerce routes to the deployment of your legions. Sadly, I never quite got to this point in the demo, so I really can't comment on it. Another one of the game's more unique mechanics is the system of worship, which allows players to honor the gods with pantheons and tributes. Even those gods can come down and visit the city and take a stroll through the streets themselves, which is quite nice. One of the things I really liked was the ability to zoom right in to the point where the walls of the buildings in your city disappear, allowing you to see the goings-on inside, a nice little touch that made me smile. But did it do enough to set itself apart? To be honest, I'm not quite sure, but we'll be keeping an eye on CITADELUM as it approaches its final release. Number 3, Pax Augusta. Pax Augusta is probably the most authentic ancient city building simulation. Build flourishing cities and look after your citizens, earn gold with production and trade of goods, and build impressive monuments, strengthen your influence, and become a Roman emperor. This is the second Roman-themed city builder we took a look at, and according to you all, the one that caught your eye the most, and I must say, of the two, it also probably grabbed my attention. This one is definitely detailed, in-depth, and as authentic as one could expect from a game. If you're the type of person who does not like spending too much time looking at menus, numbers, and tweaking things to the highest level of detail one could imagine, this one is probably not for you. I loved the Pax Augusta was focused on the Roman provinces, far away from the huge marble cities that had already been built by that stage. Somehow this added to the authenticity of the game for me. The opportunities for fairly accurate replications of old cities is completely possible and excites me greatly as a history fan. Apart from the detail, the other standout for me was the level of diversity in the buildings you can use to construct your new metropolises. I think there are 14 different variations of the level 1 homes alone, all with different lengths, widths, and then there are all the backyard gardens extensions to go with it. I was absolutely blown away by the potential this one presents the player to create super detailed and above all very individual looking cities, no matter which playthrough you're on. Developed by one man, with some help from his friends, this one has leapt to the top of my most anticipated titles, and I can absolutely confirm that we'll be doing a full playthrough of this as soon as we can. Pax Augusta just ticked so many boxes for me. Thank you, Roger Gassman, for all the work you have put into this one so far. Number 4, Airborne Empire. Build your sky city while exploring a vast landscape in this open-world RPG city builder, combining the methodical construction and management of a city builder, the unique lift, balance, and propulsion needed for a flying city, and the compelling characters, dangers, and adventures of an RPG. This is a follow-up to Airborne Kingdom, one of the games that I think best captured or expressed the idea of a moving city builder. Airborne Empire basically expands on the foundations of its predecessor and keeps all of that game's base mechanics in place. The challenge of keeping a city growing while trying to keep it up in the sky, make sure it's correctly balanced and has enough power to propel itself forward is a very unique and quite nice little challenge, and I really do like the idea of having to travel to gather the resources you need to stay afloat. Where Airborne Empire differs substantially is that we now have aerial combat, which to be honest was probably the most logical direction the game could have gone in, and it does make cruising above the land in your floating city slightly more exciting and a little bit more challenging. One of the highlights for me was the refreshed color palette. I did find that Airborne Kingdom tended to be a bit monotone, and the brighter, more lively color palette of Airborne Empire works much better with the game's art style in my opinion. A bit of an interesting one in the end. The game is clearly trying to blend genres. You have a classic city building gameplay loop, but the exploration, questing, and combat feels like it's borrowing slightly from the RPG genre, and the devs have clearly put much more effort into creating a much bigger world, packed with a variety of not only resources, but random encounters and quests to complete. I'm not sure if I did not remember this from Airborne Empire, but also apparently, we're playing as birds. Number 5, Beyond the Stars. Build a city on the back of a space whale and learn to coexist as you journey through the stars. Manage intricate supply chains and the needs of your people as you build outposts, meet aliens, and uncover the mysteries of the universe. This is another title embracing the trend of building cities that move. This one has a certain level of whimsy to it that initially drew me in. I mean, as a Terry Pratchett fan, I could not turn down the chance to build a city on the back of Great Arturan. The fact that the game is also published by Hooded Horse, who tend to back winners, made me want to give this one a spin even more. On the city building front, this game looks like it's going to have quite a high level of complexity when it comes to resource and supply chain management. The adjacency bonuses and nerfs attached to the placements of buildings themselves also adds a nice level of challenge and complexity that I really liked. Reminded me a lot of the more recent Settlers title, and oddly, Universum. I did find the juxtaposition of the game's broad art style with the character art tied to the dialogue boxes to be a bit jarring, but this might just be me and a highly personal thing. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to get too deep into the demo, so I did not get to experience any of the outpost building or alien encounters, but the foundation looks solid, and I can see this one being a fun title in the end, especially for those who like a little bit of puzzle solving with their city builders. Definitely one I'll be keeping tabs on. No decision yet if we'll cover it fully on the channel though. Number 6, ENDZONE 2. ENDZONE 2 is a post-apocalyptic survival colony builder where you embark to secure humanity's survival after a cataclysmic disaster. Discover and repopulate the last habitable grounds while survival of your people hinges on your wits, foresight, and resilience in a harsh and unforgiving world. This is another follow-up title that I really enjoyed. ENDZONE 2 thankfully drops the overtly long and clunky name that its predecessor possessed, and just like Airborne Empire, takes the base of the first game and iterates on it very well. Very much a survival city builder, ENDZONE 2 leans into the post-apocalyptic theme very hard, and once and for all puts to bed the argument over what music will survive the end of the world. There are a lot of new additions here, but the standout for me is that the game is clearly leaning towards having multiple settlements, another trend that I really like. Thank you Anno series and Manor Lords. And the changes to the way that you generate knowledge and unlock new technology is fantastic. I really like the idea of being able to push a settlement in a certain direction depending on what type of citizens or workers live there, and thus what the focus of the settlement ultimately is. The devs have also added vehicles, and thus moving around to explore the map is clearly a very important activity. Exploration not only unlocks random encounters, quests, and challenges, but also allows you to gain resources and knowledge points, all very satisfying. This loop of building and exploring means that there's always something for the player to do, while you wait for those more planks to be produced, while still keeping the core roots of the survival city building genre intact. I really enjoyed this demo. Gently Mad Studios have done a solid job, and I'm really looking forward to covering this one in full when it releases in Q3 later this year. So quest notes on this one coming soon. Number 7, Goblin Camp. Goblin Camp is a fantasy city building game inspired by Finnish mythology. Deep simulation mechanics capture the unique challenges of surviving the harsh winters and carving a thriving settlement out of the northern forest. Lead your goblins to greatness. Who doesn't like goblins, hey? Well, normally my D&D table hates them, but when they're cute, blue, and small like these ones, hate is a really hard emotion to conjure up. This demo throws you slightly into the deep end with no tutorial at all. Despite this, it wasn't that hard to fumble around and figure out the first steps. There's clearly a lot of content missing or still to come, and I found the tech tree progression slightly confusing at first. However, once we got the hang of things, there were some interesting ideas here. One of the good things is that it appears there are multiple playstyles that one could pursue to help keep your goblins alive. Building a cozy fishing village that survives on fish and cultivating raspberry and black currants is just as viable as a complete slash and burn approach where you clear the whole forest and build a massive city. There's also a set of mechanics at play here that revolves around shamans and maintaining a balance of nature, which basically means that for everything you take, you have to give back by sacrificing to the spirits. If you neglect to do so, they will take revenge, although I did not come across this in the demo. On that note, there also appears to be some great water and fire simulations implemented. With the water reacting to the terrain, you can raise and lower it with shovels or spells that allow you to build ditches and moats. Fire is also a real hazard, breaking out and spreading according to the direction of the wind, which makes it rather more dangerous than other city builders I have played. To wrap up with a bit of trivia, Goblin Camp is a continuation slash remake slash a reimagining of an earlier game also called Goblin Camp, which was released by the same developer around 2010, I believe. That version was an ASCII freeware game. So we're dealing with solo dev again, with two friends helping, pursuing passion and love into a game that they clearly love. There's lots more to come, and we'll continue to keep an eye on Goblin Camp. Right, that's it from me, the Beard. I hope you've enjoyed this little recap of our Next Fest June 2024 journey, and if any of these games caught your eye, please do pop over to the Steam page or your PC game store of choice and add them to your wish list. I know the developers would appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the comments and in the future. Till then, stay safe. I am the Beard, signing out.